Good evening and welcome to the WFC show with me, Matt Crane. I'm joined tonight by Gareth. How are we doing?
Yeah, great, thanks. Getting towards the end of the year at work, so looking forward to a break there. But excited to be back after a couple of weeks off and pre-recorded. It's good to be back live.
I know it's been a while. Anthony, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. All COVID-free now, luckily.
Out of isolation, and obviously, John, it's good to get you back as well because I know you've been missing for a couple of shows. So, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Yeah, I decided to Anthony, I need to start watching some of these Euros because I haven't watched much football lately. I've been enjoying the hot weather, so I need to get back into football, I think.
You'll be all right soon. It's been the rain.
Yeah.
Either that, John, or get a TV outside, pal.
Yeah,
good
what
evening
I'll
to
do that.
Robert, and good evening to John Fry. So a bit of a mix-up tonight, bit of everything thrown in there. We're going to start off, Gareth's very committedly, shall we say, done a big transfer roundup of the WSL and the Championship deals. So we're going to sort of take you through and discuss the current done deals. Obviously, there's not many because the window did officially open on the 11th, but we still have a few things to discuss. We're then going to sort of take it into other teams and where they may strengthen based on what they've lost. We will put in our starting 11. So assuming that the season started, let's say this weekend, for example, our starting 11 based on new signings that we want to sort of make. So, you know, where would they play? Who do you want in your 11? And yeah, just sort of go with the flow. And then we'll also briefly discuss sort of potential new manager and lack of current news. So Gareth, I'm going to hand over to you, let you take the wheel on this one with your incomings and outgoings. If you want to start with obviously either WSL or Championship, I'll let you sort of go with that, and then we'll fire away.
Yeah, so I reckon we'll start with the Championship. Obviously, most of the outgoings at the moment are a product of the retained list. So the majority of outgoings at the moment have been those players that are released, and it's a funny one in the Championship at the moment. There's some clubs, so we start in alphabetical order, like Blackburn, who have only released one player, just Leah Edwards gone from there. So the core of that team are going forward. Bristol City, obviously we know that Ebony Salmon has left to join Racing Louisville. Ella Mastrantonio has been released. Georgia Wilson has been released. Benedict Harland has joined Selfos FC. So the only sort of departure of note there is Evan Salmon to the US, and Ella Mastrantonio was kind of played every game last season in midfield. Charlton haven't announced anything yet. Yeah, they have. That's the wrong list. So Charlton haven't announced any incomings yet. There's just their outgoings. But again, no one really of any note there. I think the big one really at the moment is Coventry. Coventry haven't released many people. Maz Gauntlet has been released with Helen Dermundy, and Sue Wood, I think, is retiring. But the big interesting thing with Coventry is there are some names being rumoured to be joining as well. But the big one, they've signed Katie Wilkinson from Sheffield United, who's been a top scorer in the Championship for the last couple of seasons. So, Matt, you've watched the Championship kind of more than John and Anthony have. What do you make of that signing?
I mean, do you know what? I was actually shocked, and I don't mean that disrespectful to Coventry. It's more a compliment to the player. Yeah, I think Championship top scorer. Listen, the Championship, has massively improved since we were obviously in it in 2018. And, someone who consistently is up there as top scorer for Sheffield, Katie Wilkinson. Considering they came fourth, she had a very, very good season. I think she might have won goal of the season as well. So for Coventry in their first year of going pro, it just shows how serious they are now. I don't know if any of you guys have heard rumours, but I've heard rumours of a couple of other signings, let's just say former WSL players. So I think, it shows, you've got at least half of that league now full time. So it's interesting with one going up that everybody is kind of, throwing money at it. And I think Coventry, they've even gone as far as to sort of, take their new signings out into the city centre and take pictures with, sort of famous landmarks, I think they called it. So yeah, interested by that one. For me, like I say, a very solid signing, considering they weren't pro, season just finished and they kind of struggled. It's going to be very interesting. Like I say, they're full time. Bristol have come down, depending on how many they retain. They could be up there. You've got Liverpool, I'm assuming, are going to strengthen under Matt Baird, who's a very good coach. So, like I say, what a coup for Coventry. And I think if these two other names I've heard that have, played WSL also end up there, they could be, for me, within, touching distance of going up next year. I'm going to pass to John. John, obviously, Gareth said you hadn't watched too much, but obviously you'll have been aware of Katie Wilkinson at Sheffield, and I know Natalie obviously rates Katie very highly as well. Do you just want to talk to us about that and her going to Coventry? Were you surprised as me, or maybe it was time for a challenge given that Sheffield are only part-time?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Now, people are going for, we've spoken about it on this show regarding sustainability and confidence in your own career. And if you go to a full-time club, then it's going to be a lot easier for you, isn't it? You can be a bit more stable, and when you're stable, you can play a better game. Obviously, I've started to like Sheffield because obviously we've had links there since we've started. So, I don't want to see Sheffield weaken. If anything, I want to see them get promoted and do well. But Coventry is a fairly local club to myself. I've got no loyalties towards them, but I do like to see the local teams do well. So, yeah, all the best to them. But, yeah, a little surprised, but I can understand it.
Anthony, I'll just come to you to talk about Ebony Salmon. Obviously, going down from the WSL last season, there were rumours that linking Ebony Salmon with a lot of the time top sides in the WSL. Were you surprised to see her make that move to America, and how do you think she'll get on over there?
Yeah, I was a little surprised she went to America. I'm always quite late to find out these things. I'm like, oh, she should come here, and then about a day later, it's like, oh, she's gone to America or something.
Well, it is Anthony, you work too hard. These guys aren't working. They're on the phones all day.
It must be that. Yeah, we'll take that. Yeah, but she obviously fancies a new experience. The American League, I don't know how much about it. I don't. If it's like the international, though, where they're really good and the competitive, then it's just a challenge and a next step. I've said previously before, I wish we'd given Ebony a chance. When you look at hindsight and who we replaced Ebony with, but you never know. She might come back in a few years' time and fancy a second chance. But I think she'll do all right. I think I don't know much of the team, but they signed another big player. I can't remember off the top of my head the name.
They signed Gemma Bonner from Man City. Yeah,
it wasn't that one. It was another one. I think it might have been another striker or a midfielder, but I can't think on the top of my head. So with that service and all that as well, she should get a good few chances, I feel.
I think it's going to be good for Ebony, because I think anybody who goes to America, you'll learn a lot, won't you? It's as simple as that, and you'll come back stronger. Absolutely. She would have spoken to other players who she knows, who she's even played with in the past, who've played in America. So I'm sure she'll come back stronger. But if I could throw a question out to maybe Matt or Gareth, is anyone surprised that another WSL team didn't go in for her, or maybe they did go in for it, but she chose the States, maybe?
I was surprised that she went. Oh, go on.
I'll say for me, I think the surprise was not necessarily that WSL side didn't go in for it, because I think if you look at the top sides, Arsenal have Viv for now. Chelsea have plenty of strikers. We've already spoken about how LJ is going to fit into that side. And I think City are similar with White and Kelly and Hemp as well. So couldn't see Ebony going and starting straight away at any of those clubs. So I think potentially the opportunity to go abroad and play over there is a great opportunity for her, and one that I don't think she should pass up on. We see a lot of players go over there and sort of really succeed. So I'm hoping she does. And the one bonus for going to Louisville is the shirt it's a beautiful football shirt.
I think just to follow on from Gareth, for me personally, I was surprised that she did go over there because I'd heard that Man City were in for her, and another WSL club as well. So I think for me, that was a bit of a shock. But then on the flip side, if you look at Man City's forward line and you've got the likes of Kelly, obviously injured at the minute, but Stanway, Hemp, Ellen White. Even Jess Park is a decent up-and-coming, young forward. I think it would have been very competitive, and I think game time is obviously what she had in mind, which a new league, like Gareth said, it'd be daft to pass it up. I think, the NWSL is a very, very good league. It's going to be different. Obviously, I think it's a lot more, what should we say? I think maybe more technical and a bit more physical for me than the WSL. But listen, it's going to be something where she can learn. She's over there for 2 years, so... what better opportunity than to test yourself in a different league, obviously having played in, the WSL now for a couple of seasons.
So just moving on then, interestingly, Crystal Palace and London City Lionesses both have hefty release lists, which will be interesting. They've not announced any incomings yet. It'll be interesting to see how they go about rebuilding their squad there. But the other interesting point from the Championship is Sheffield United at the moment. So a lot of players have gone, and a lot of players I think you would expect to see playing for them. So Leandra Little has retired. Obviously, Katie Wilkinson has gone to Coventry. But Kerry Matthews has left to go to Arizona State University. They've released Jade Pennock, Chloe Dixon, Nom Hartley, Mel Johnson, and Nat Johnson as well. And at the moment, their only ins are Jess Clark and Sophie Bradley Auckland, both coming in from Liverpool. So obviously came fourth last year, second the year before, still part-time. Matt, what do you make of Sheffield United's chances next season?
Is it too harsh if I say I don't? I think, I'm sorry, I can't put it any other way. I don't want to sit here, I'd rather be honest. But I think it's difficult. The thing is, I was very surprised last year. The men's team obviously got relegated, the season just finished. But I think the year they went up, I was surprised that they didn't go full time. Now, I can't think of any other reason why they wouldn't want to. If the men were willing to back it, I can only think that the men couldn't care less. So it is a strange one because they always seem to build a decent competitive squad. Obviously, like you mentioned, they've lost a few, but for me, the addition of Jess Clark, who's played WSL, considering they are a part-time outfit, is a very, very good signing. She's been involved when she was younger in the sort of England undergroups. So yeah, like I say, I'm surprised that after a few good seasons, even when we were in the Championship, they were always up and around, sort of that top 3, top 4. So I think the trouble is now is that they've lost the top scorer. They've lost a couple of other players who are not bad quality as well. Yes, Neil Redfern is a decent manager, but again, you're competing for one spot. And I think we've talked about this previously, so I'm not going to keep banging on. But one spot going up makes it difficult, as does 6 or 7 other pro players. So I think for me, I can see here Robert says, 5th or 6th. I mean, I'd probably say 6th or 7th for me. I think, you've probably got Bristol, Liverpool, Durham above them. Charlton, I've heard a couple of signings today that they are done or not announced that sound decent, again, from WSL. Got the likes of Coventry as well. So I think that sort of puts them down there, doesn't it? So, yeah, I think it's going to be very, very difficult this season. Probably more difficult for them than they've found it in previous seasons. But listen, we could revisit this next summer and I could be to my words and they could have had a very good season. But at the minute, based on, what they've got in the direction they're heading, I think, 6th or 7th for me probably is about right.
Okay, great. So moving on to the WSL. Obviously, the transfer window opened only a few days ago. So there hasn't been an awful lot of movement yet confirmed since then. I think the majority of kind of transfers already confirmed we knew about previously. So an example of that is Iwabuchi moving from Aston Villa to Arsenal. Been in pursuit with them for a while, but won't be joining up with Arsenal until after the Olympics. John, what do you make of that signing for Arsenal?
It's good because we had someone on the show, Aston Villa supporter, and she raved about Iwabuchi, and I actually think that with the amount of strikers that we have got leaving us, I would have happily taken her as well. Maybe not as first choice striker. I would have rather Russo and maybe one other. But to have in the squad, I think if she was happy to be like a cup player or a bench player at Man United, absolutely. So I think that's a real good signing for Arsenal. It was done early as well, so there's no messing around there, which obviously makes you think that there's a couple of Arsenal players potentially on the way out. It's good that Arsenal are doing the business early because they are. We know that. And it's a big loss for the Midland team, it really is. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing her play next season. And I obviously at the stadium as well. I have to see her in person as well, yeah.
The outs for Arsenal so far. Now, we know there are a couple of players being linked with Lyon. We know Williamson and Miedemar have both been linked with moves over there. Whether either of those will materialise, remains to be seen. But, still plenty of time. Jill Roord has gone back to the Bundesliga to start with Wolfsburg. Leonie Meyer has been released, and Ruby Mace this week, 17-year-old who spent last season on loan at Birmingham City, has gone to Manchester City. Aston Villa yet to sign anybody, but their release list, like we say, includes Iwabuchi. She's gone. Caroline Seams has gone as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they pick up the pieces from where they were. Anthony, I'll come to you in a...
Sorry, I was going to say, obviously Villa came really close to being relegated last season.
Yeah.
What do you think that they need? Because they've just got rid of one of the best players. Well, I wouldn't say got rid of, that's harsh, but they've just lost one of the best players. Surely they must be a little bit worried themselves, aren't they?
I think they're going to be one of the teams that really struggle next season. I think there's going to be two. I think both of them from the Midlands will probably be the ones that kind of struggle the most next year. When we look at Birmingham's list in a moment, I think they've managed to keep quite a lot of the core of their squad that I think will very much depend on who the new manager is there. So I think if Birmingham can recruit some good players and a good coach, then Villa are really going to struggle. And I think they're going to need to replace Iwabuchi. I've not heard any rumours about who may or may not be moving in that direction. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do. But I think for me, they need goals. And I think that it's going to come down to that in and amongst those bottom teams. They're all going to leak goals against the top sides. It's who can go to the likes of your Birminghams, your Spurs, your Aston Villas, and who can score more goals than the opposition. So I think that at the moment is really what's missing from the Aston Villa squad. If we just look at Birmingham, and Anthony, I'll come to you with this. They've offered contracts to a number of first-team players. So Abby Grant, Hannah Hampton, Rebecca Holloway, Gemma Lawley, Rusha Littlejohn, Sarah Mayling, Connie Schofield, Harriet Scott, Claudia Walker, Lucy Whip, and Sophie Whitehouse have all been offered permanent deals. Gemma Browham, who was on loan from Everton, has been offered a permanent deal, and Lily Simkin has been offered a professional contract. Christine Murray and Vitriki Sari remain under contract, and they've offered deals to Molly Green and Emma Kelly. Now, talks are ongoing there, so nothing's confirmed. Ruby Mace has obviously gone back to Arsenal and has since signed for Manchester City. And Emily Murphy has gone back to their parent clubs. And Jamie Lee Napier, who was also on loan, has been released by Chelsea. So the only player they're really releasing is Heidi Logan. So, Anthony, what do you think next season might look like for Birmingham, given that the majority of their squad are being retained. Only the loanees, and at the moment, one player being released, which may extend to 3 if those 2 who are currently in discussions leave as well. What needs to happen at Birmingham for them to be able to repeat this season and stay up?
I know it sounds silly, but they need to be backed. I think the training facilities and that need to be more up to scratch. And that you say these players have been offered contracts, but it doesn't mean that they might not look elsewhere. They might fancy a different challenge. They might know more behind the scenes that and feel like it's just going to be like last season where they were struggling to field a team. Possibly. They're also looking for a new manager, so it depends what if the manager can sell, and if they got the same ambition as the owners. But we all know it's hard if you don't get backed. And I think, like, was it Craney said, I think, but the Midlands teams will struggle the most. I feel they just need to keep that main group of players though, and get a couple of other ones. But the main thing is backing. They need to be backed. If they just run them down like they did this season, then it's going to be a very long season, and they'll struggle down the bottom of the table again.
Yeah, I think for me, Birmingham, I said it last season, and I think I'll say it again this year, that, here and now on the 15th of June, they're my favourites to go down. Matt, I'll come to you and then John. Would you agree with that? Do you think that it's probably going to be one of Birmingham or Villa that at the moment, before they kind of bring in any additions, look to be the favourites for relegation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think spot on. I think, I had Birmingham last year, and, Carlo Ward pulled off an absolute miracle keeping them up. So, again, Anthony's spot on. We talk about teams investment, and I think Birmingham cannot let what happened last year happen again this year. If they've not learned from it, I'm not being funny, they don't deserve to stay up. And apologies if there are any Brum fans watching, but I do believe the team deserves a lot better. I was fortunate enough to watch WSL when Birmingham was sort of top 3, top 4. And they were a very good side. And to see where they were to where they are now is just a shambles. And that's not necessarily through fault of the fans or the players. It's more fault of the owners. So, it's going to be interesting, because I think what Villa do have, although they've shipped out a load of players and they're probably going to have another big turnover, is I think they've sort of got a clean slate. Eni Aluko's obviously gone abroad to America. So I have a new sporting director coming in. Hopefully chuck a bit more money at it, being backed by the men's team. I think last year, there was a few good players there. Asmi Terrell, the fullback, somebody I rate very well. I've seen her for the England, youth teams. Emily Simon midfield as well. So, listen, I think if Villa can get a couple of decent defenders, the midfield looks okay, and maybe a couple of goal-scoring forwards, which is always difficult when you're sort of, lower down, to find somebody that can bag in the WSL. I think, it's going to be interesting, but I do think for me it's going to be those two fighting out for relegation. I think West Ham will have learned from last season's sort of recruitment mistakes. Spurs probably similar as well, because they've shifted a load out, but I still expect, for me, Birmingham and Villa to sort of be battling it out for the bottom spot / survival spot for me.
Yeah, I just quickly disagree with you guys on that one. I don't know how you can say anyone different apart from those two clubs, and it could come down to the actual manager, couldn't it? If the players were kind of like the same level, then maybe you're looking at what the manager can do. Then obviously you'd probably say that Aston Villa have got the edge on that one. And also you sometimes look at the club who's coming up. But I think in this case, from what I saw of Leicester against Man United, and from what I've heard about how well they've won, they shouldn't be anywhere near Villa and Birmingham next season either. So, yeah, you'd have to expect one of those two teams.
Does somebody want to take John Fry's comment before we move on.
Yeah, so I think struggle is relative here. I don't think we're going to struggle in the same sense that I think people like Spurs, West Ham, Villa, and Birmingham will struggle. But I'm not sure that we'll ever kind of next season look as though we're in a title fight. I think potentially we might lose some ground to Arsenal depending on what they manage to do this window, and kind of slip back to where we were a couple of years ago, where it's us and Everton kind of fighting it out for that fourth place spot. So yeah, I think we might struggle to progress from the season just finished, but I don't think we'll. I think there's kind of a risk of us slipping into mid-table. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you, to be fair. I think anyone knows it's going to be very hard to get people on at the calibre of Heath and Press, and we were really fortunate to get them to last season. Obviously, unfortunately, us fans couldn't be there to see them play, but when you have people like Heath and Press and you know it's highly likely they're not going to re-sign, it's always going to be a struggle finding that quality that can make us progress. See, and it, like we've said many times before, it's still up in the air. We don't know who the manager is. I do wonder if it could be someone that's still got a manager's job, so they're tied in, or maybe the club are being quiet and it's someone in-house, and hence why maybe they had talks with Casey about the signings that Casey has led to. We are led to believe Casey has made before she went. So, yes, I think I would agree with you, Gareth, where we might be a bit further away from Arsenal and a bit closer to the likes of Everton, scrapping for 4th, 5th. But like you said, I don't think we'll be mid-table. I think we'll get to a certain point in the season. I think when things get into place, we get a new manager and we get some signings and that, I think everyone will be a bit more people might be a bit more upbeat, like, oh, yeah, I feel a bit more confident now. I think it's the element of not knowing who the new manager's going to be and who we're going to bring in, how many we're going to bring in, how many are going to leave. I know we've got all these rumours about 8 and 9 leaving, but they still need replacing. So who do you replace them with?
Can I just jump in on that one as well? Just obviously with being Man United related. Obviously, I'm a little bit worried about going into next season because obviously the lack of stability, this, that, and another. But I don't think we should forget who we have still got. And I know that we'll come to this towards the end of the show. We talk about maybe Everton catching us up and any other clubs catching us up. John Fry says potentially 6th. And I understand all this. But let's not forget, if we finish 6th, that means there's 2 teams, obviously, that's going to finish 4th and 5th. Whoever those clubs are in your head, I bet those clubs would die to have Galton and Russo up front, Jackie, Tooney, Ladd in the midfield, 2 Turners, Honor, Earps at the back. I'm pretty sure that, don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit worried too. I really am, and I've been saying it for like the last month or so, and I know that we're in a tough place, a new manager coming in, instability, all this kind of stuff, but I do still think that we've still got that quality in the starting 11. It's just a strength in depth that we need to sign, which obviously we'll discuss. So I do think that, yeah, I'm a little bit worried, and I do think that if we get it wrong, we'll step further back. Because it looks like Arsenal might get it right if they can keep Vivian. But I've still got that bit of faith that we have still got a decent team. We just need to build on it correctly over the summer. If we don't build on it, then yeah, maybe it's going to be a bit more tougher.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the core of the squad is still there. It's just we're going to need to get the summer right in order to kind of bridge that gap to Arsenal. Moving on, just a few more WSL transfers. Brighton released 9. I think the big one there, the kind of one that stood out to me was Jodie Brett retiring because of injury. Craney, I know that she's a player that you've watched and kind of seen play before her injuries. And Laura Rafferty as well has been released, a former Chelsea defender. Matt, can you quickly touch on Jodie Brett for us and her retirement?
Yeah, I mean, listen, she struggled sort of the season just gone, the one before, with injuries. It's been very unfortunate. But when she was at Everton, my days, what a player. She reminds me of sort of, if we're comparing to our players, Hayley Ladd. Now, very strong in a tackle, very good passer of the ball, similar position, defensive midfielder, can play central midfield if required. And yeah, like I say, very good play. When Everton were decent, should we say? She was sort of the main part of that team. They had the likes of Chloe Kelly in there. She played. Molly Green was there. So they had. They were getting to sort of cup semi-finals, doing okay in the league. And yeah, it's a shame really, because like I say, she was a regular for the under-23s, and I think had injury not hampered her, you'd probably see her. I'd say at least maybe in a top 5 team. Okay, maybe not back at Everton, but for me, she could have easily replaced, the outgoings at Reading in that central midfield, because they've obviously lost Farah to retirement and Angrad James to America. So, big loss for Brighton, really. Gutted for Jodie, because like I say, I think she's 24, maybe 25. She's not that old anyway, so to sort of retire that early on in your career is a bit of a blow. It does seem like, judging by her Instagram, that she's sort of got a new venture and she's going into personal training. So, hopefully that takes off her. And I'm sure, listen, she'll still be in and about the game, whether that's sort of personal training at a club and strength and conditioning coach or any sort of coaching, But yeah, just to summarise, I'd say big loss for Brighton, really, and a shame for her.
It's been quiet at Chelsea so far in terms of confirmed deals. Obviously, we know that there are other deals potentially on the horizon, but at Chelsea it's just Jamie Lee Napier that's been released. A potential good pickup for somebody like Villa or Leicester potentially, or some of those clubs in the Championship that are looking to kick on and go for promotion. So it'll be interesting to see where she ends up. And Anique Nouwen as well, coming in from PSV, a player that I don't know an awful lot about. So it'll be interesting to see how she gets on. Just kind of go quickly through some of the others. Everton been very quiet, no ins there. But Ingrid Movold has retired, and they have released Chantal Boyflorka today. She'll leave at the end of her contract. And obviously Jill Scott and Alicia Lehman have gone back to their parent clubs there. Leicester, nothing announced yet, in or out. And Manchester City, again, just those that we already knew of. Mewis and Lavelle have gone back to America, to Courage and Rain. Gemma Bonner has gone to Racing Louisville. Megan Campbell's been released, and as mentioned earlier, they've signed Megan Campbell. Reading we touched on previously. Just Skip United, so I'll come back to those shortly to spend a lot of time, but we all know no ins, no outs have been announced yet there. Reading, they've lost Farah to retirement. Angrad again has gone to America. But the only other kind of outs for them, Lauren Bruton has been released and Molly Bartrip has been released as well. But obviously I think the big one is Farah and Angrad. Spurs have some interesting outs. Rihanna Dean has gone. Alana Kennedy has been released, as well as Hannah Philby, Chloe Peplow, and then Gemma Davidson, Hannah Godfrey, Aurora Mickelson, Lucia Leon, Lucy Quinn, Siri Worm, and Alicia Sulola have gone as well. I wonder if any of those names will pop up when we talk about our United wish lists later on. But finally, West Ham have obviously released some players. Courtney Brosnan, Kenza Darley, Anouk Denton, Emily Van Egmond, Leanne Kiernan, Cecilia Reddish, Martha Thomas, and Laura Vetterline have gone. And they brought in Tamenka Yallop from Brisbane Roar. So moving on. So that's the WSL. Like I said at the start when we started this quick roundup, the majority of those are from the retained lists. So not an awful lot of movement apart from then. Obviously, we all know that United have neither announced any outgoings nor announced any incomings, whether that's on the pitch or in the dugout. So with no confirmed deals to talk about, we're going to do some speculation and some window shopping. So, Matt, I'll hand back to you.
Yeah, in the words of Sky Sports, cheers, Jeff. What we'll do then, we're going to obviously talk through our starting 11. So, like I said before at the start of the show, we're going to assume that the season starts this weekend. And what you're going to do is you're going to give me your starting 11, but you're going to put in your what should we call it, your shopping list in there as well. So obviously we've all talked about on previous shows and on Twitter who we want. So now's your chance to put those in your team. Just before we do, we'll quickly fly around the panel. Lehmann, I'll start with me. I'd take Alicia Lehmann, probably as backup, but I don't think she's the finished article yet. I think she's only 22. Wide player, very quick, could do a job for us. I've actually not put her in my starting 11 because I believe she's still got a contract for this season at West Ham. But, you know, I would happily take Lehmann. I'll swiftly move to you, John. Alicia Lehmann, West Ham / Everton.
Yeah, 100%. As a squad player, because I think it'll be better than what we've got now. Not starting 11, but definitely a squad player, absolutely, yeah.
Anthony?
I've not seen much of her, but I'll take your advice on it. You're pretty knowledgeable. So, yeah, I could see her being a good squad player, keeping people that are already there, like Kirsty Hansen and that, on their toes so their performance don't drop. So, and yeah, another young one. So, yeah, no, would be good.
And yourself, Gareth?
Yeah, I think I mentioned on the show before that I'd take Lehmann. Like John said, I don't think she should start necessarily over Hansen, but you know, I didn't think that Amy T would start this year, and I didn't think that Tooney would be one of the players of the season. So, you know, get them on a training ground and see what they're made of. I'd much rather have Lehmann than some of the names that have been linked with us this summer. So, yeah, but like you say, she's on the contract, so not one that I'd want to pay a fair whack of money for. But if the opportunity came to sign her sort of relatively cheap or on a free, I'd jump at it.
Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do then, Anthony, I'm going to put you on the spot with your 11. Hopefully 11, should I say. I know I say this a lot.
Yeah,
do you want to read out your team? Like I say, it may be that you've got players that are obviously still here. But like I say, read out your 11, read out your formation as well if you want, and then sort of just a couple of brief thoughts for your options and why.
Far into detail formation-wise, but I've gone for Erskine goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think the names that are flying around still and being young, like people like Sophie Bagley, are not going to immediately improve the team.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mary, 10 clean sheets, experienced in England international. She's played Champions League, so I think what's out there, I think she's our best option at the moment. Like we discussed on WhatsApp, I was like, oh, we want to do realistic, don't we? Otherwise, I'd put like Christine Edler in there or that. So obviously, I think Mary will stick with Mary. Battel, obviously, season, what she did speaks for herself. So, centre backs, I've gone for Millie, and then it was one or two players. The Leah Williamson would be good, but obviously you mentioned about Leon and that, and I'm not being funny. Is she going to pick Leon if she had the choice? That's even if we offered her a deal. And then the other one, who is now a free agent, I believe, Kennedy. Am I right? She's a defender, am I right? Or have I got that wrong? Yeah.
No, she can play centre back.
And she, not a bad free kicks. I think we need a free kick taker, looking at some of our free kicks this season. So that would be good. And also, she's an international for Australia, if I'm right. Is that?
Yeah,
I don't want to sound stupid, so that. Then the left back, and John Fry's done it the other way round. But Maya Letitia, I've seen her a few times play for Brighton. She's had 2-3 years in the WSL with Brighton as well, and I think she would be a good addition. She seems to do well every time I've seen her play, and she's young, so we'll only get better. Midfield, I've gone for Tooney, that Thea Boa, or whatever her name is, however you pronounce it. Yeah. Sorry, Jackie and Leah. Obviously, Jackie had a good season. Would be nice if she could add some goals to her game. But, she, like I said, international as well, and she's got better since she's joined. We know what Leah brings when she's fully fit. We saw that halfway through, and that teams realised they had to gang up on her by putting 2 on her, so that creates space for the others. Tooney, obviously, she's getting better, not just her work rate, but her goals and assists, important at times. And then, obviously, I don't know much about Boa Rios, but we've been linked with her for a few seasons, a few months now. And I've spoke to you about her, and you said she would be a good addition. So that's basically my thinking. Up front, we know we're going to lose a few people up front, so we're definitely going to need a couple of strikers. Now, I've gone for one that I think would be realistic, and I've gone for one that Nat's mentioned a lot, but I've heard she's Nat's dreams got crushed by, we're not getting her and her and her. So I've gone for Beth England. She might not get so much game time with obviously Kerr, Harder and all that. If Lauren James goes, we know obviously England international, she knows where the goal is, which is something we've lacked at times with the clinicalness, as I've mentioned loads of times, and we've all mentioned loads of times. So I think that would be a good addition. And then the Barcelona striker, what's her name? Ashita Oshuala. Yeah, she's with obviously Barcelona. They're Champions League winners. I find it hard sometimes when we do these lists because I don't obviously know a great deal, but from what I've seen and heard, she's a lot better than currently what we've got or getting. So that's the 11 I've picked. I'm sure maybe a couple of them might happen, but we'll see. Just a bit of fun, wasn't it? I think yeah. So. Whoever wants to. Anyone have their opinions on any of the list, or are we just going to go into what you've got now?
I will just ask a question on that one, Anthony. Can I ask Anthony a question? So you've gone for two good strikers there. Would you put them over Russo in the starting 11? or would you play Russo out wide? Because this is what I was thinking as well. But you
yeah, no, that is a good thing. You could have. I think that is the thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's a very good point because we've seen like Tooney on the right, so you possibly could have Russo on the right, but or you. I don't know if the other one, the Barcelona one, if she's quick, isn't she? So she might be better on the wing because we know Russo's good in the air. She scored a couple of headers, unfortunately, before she got injured and that. So you could experiment, couldn't you, and see what works best and change it round. But yeah, no, that's a very good point, John.
I'll go through mine.
Do you want to,
yeah. It's quite similar to John Fry's and some of Anthony's as well. So obviously keep Mary in goal. Honor Kennedy purely because I think it's feasible. I think, and obviously she's versatile as well. So I haven't put Amy T in there in this because I'm thinking Amy T might not be here. So I've gone for Millie. But obviously if Amy stays, then great. I don't know much about Leticia, but I don't know much about any other fullbacks really that's on the market. So I'll take John Fry's point on that one. So that will probably be my 4 defenders. So I'm basically just bringing in 2 defenders there. Midfield for me stays the same. I don't think there's anyone out there that's going to improve us at the moment. I think it would be very unfair with the season that Tooney has had to take her out. I've spoken to Mia Eriksson. Bo Reese was more of a box-to-box midfielder, not a highly lad replacement, which was news to me. I didn't know, so obviously it's nice to hear what she had to say. But I'm not going to take Jackie out for Bo Reese. And obviously, highly lads so important to us. So then it just comes to the strikers. So for me, Galton is the number one in the front 3. I'd like to start Russo, but as I was just saying to Anthony, maybe the one player that is feasible that could come in is maybe one of the Chelsea strikers. So that could potentially happen, which would then unfortunately force Russo out wide. I don't know of any other right winger who we could potentially get who's better than Hansen. I know we joke about Paris, but it looks like she might be going to Arsenal anyway. So for me, I think I'd rather bring in a better striker and keep Russo on the pitch out wide and just let them fight it out between them. But if we start next season with Galton, Hansen and Russo up front, I'd be okay with that.
When you mentioned Russo, I'll admit when we were going through the 11, I totally forgot about Russo just because she's not been around much this season. So it will be like having a new signing where she only had a few games. So thinking at it, I would have had Russo in my 11, but obviously it totally. So I would agree with Russo. It just totally was out of my mind, but.
Look, she had a great start last season, but is she going to come back the same player? Let's all hope so, of course, but she's been there for so long. So we've got high hopes for Russo, and, even before she joined, I think, Matt, you knew it from before anyway. We have got high hopes, but just because she played well 10 months ago, it doesn't mean that she's going to hit the ground running. It might take her a few weeks or a few months to get back to that level, hasn't it? So it might be worth getting another top-class striker in just in case.
Yeah, absolutely. Gareth, do you want to read out your 11?
Yeah. So in my alternative reality, Mary's not quite fit for the season starting today after her surgery she had a couple of weeks ago. So Bagley in goal because I think we need a second goalkeeper that can come in and can push Mary and challenge for number 1 spot, because I think the competition for places makes everyone better. So Bagley in goal, not necessarily to come in and be the number 1 straight away, but to come in and fight for that. So in my alternative reality, Mary's not quite fully match fit yet. Owner right back, and then Kennedy and one of the Turners at centre back. Based on form, it'd be Amy T, but if she's gone, Millie. And then Kirsty Smith at left back. Midfield, I don't think I'd change. I think I'd stay with Hayley, Tooney and Jackie. And then up front, it's funny, John, you mentioned bringing in a quality striker. So on the right, I'd have Paris, because I know she gets a lot of stick on Twitter, and it's genuinely something I could not agree less with. I think she's class. 74 goal contributions in the WSL, was only overtaken this season as the all-time top goal scorer, and she left in 2019. 13 goals this season in the league for Lyon. Another and more in cup competitions, coming off the right. So, I think that she would come in. She would offer a lot of experience, a lot of quality, and I think people were disappointed with Press this year, but I think that Paris would come in and would absolutely smash it, and we've seen her smash it in the WSL for Everton, for City, and we've seen her play really well for England as well. I'd go with Russo up top. We would need to bring in another centre forward. I'm just not sure who potentially we could bring in to do that. There are maybe some movement at Chelsea. I don't know, but if we're going to take any Chelsea player, actually, I'd rather it be G than any of the forwards. Because, again, I think a player who is criminally underrated, and I think if we had G in our central midfield, it would elevate our team to a whole new level. So Russo up front, and obviously Leah on the left.
Interesting. Okay, are you ready for some fireworks? No, I'm just kidding. Right, I've done mine, and I've even been cheeky and chucked in a couple of spares that I thought bench. Because why not? Because I was struggling, you see, because everybody that I've mentioned is signed a new deal or signed elsewhere, or is pretty much done. So obviously, like you lot, Robert's a big fan there, Gareth.
He always is. He's my biggest fan.
Yeah, he probably is actually. Runs the Gareth fan club. But no, like you lot, obviously gone for Mary in goal. Obviously, same as you, Gareth, if she's not fully fit, because I don't know what her operation's about. Sophie Bagley would be my safe pair of hands for number 2, somebody that's experienced and good enough to push Mary. Back 4, obviously I've gone with what Anthony has. Right back, I've got Maya Letitia from Brighton. Alana Kennedy, as we all know. Millie Turner, and then Ona at left back. Gone for Hayley Ladd holding, and then this is where it gets interesting because I've done a 4 in midfield, a 1, and then a 1. So it's like a 4-1, 4-1-1. This is why it's a little bit crazy. But left side is Leah. I've got Jackie in the middle with Bo Risa. On the right, I'm struggling because I'm hearing that Paris is close to Arsenal, and it's not a swap deal for Viv. So I'd initially put Paris, and then obviously hearing that earlier today, I had to put /Hansen. So the verdict's still out on that one. Obviously, if Nikita goes to Arsenal, then that's another one of my plans blown out the water. But the other thing is, obviously, we touched on earlier with Paul about Lehmann. She could come in and easily rival Hansen. And somebody else you may not be familiar with that plays in the German league is Paulina Krumbigel. Now, she is at Hoffenheim. I think they came 3rd last year in the German league. Somebody I saw for Germany under 19s at the Euros. Tore England apart, literally. Was probably the first, maybe second best player there. Central midfielder, but she can play out on the wing as well. So I thought with her, a bit of adaptability, flexibility, and basically that was on my list. Even if we do get Paris, I think she could come in. But again, Lehmann can play both sides, so won't be adverse to that. And then I've done Tooney just behind Russo. So Russo is the centre forward, and Tooney is the sort of playmaker playing offer. Because I think what you get from Leslie is you get sort of direct, you get pace, you get power. I think she'll hold up a ball very well. And obviously Tooney, we saw last year with those sort of late time runs into the box or from the edge of the box, could do some damage. So I kind of completely ripped up last year's formation. I've never been a fan of 2 holding. So yeah, kind of like I say, gone a 4, a 1, a 4, and a 1-1. Because I don't think Tooney alongside Russo would be doing Tooney any favours. I think she's best, being that little sort of person.
Are you adding of these players up here?
No, I'm just going. If he's playing a 4-1, 4-1-1, he's either playing with no keeper or 12 players.
Yeah. Who can't count now?
Anything to get Tooney in.
Oh, right. I did. That's what I've done, John. I had to get Tooney in. That's 12.
Tooney
Sorry,
on the right then. Tooney on the right if we don't get Paris.
Yeah, Tooney on the right then. Thanks, John. You see, this is what happens when you overthink things. I literally overthinked it because I don't like one up front and I don't like two holding. But I'm going to have to go 4-1-4-1 and swallow my pride. So, yeah, it's going to have to be Tooney on the right, Bo Reeser and Jack in the middle, Leah left and Leslie up front on a bill. Because, yeah, Anthony's just absolutely sent me to town and back with that one. Fair play. I learned from the best, Anthony. That's all I can say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Learn from the best.
Can I jump in quickly with a name that I kind of forgot to mention? Obviously, I don't think that she would start, but I think Martha Thomas could be a really good player to come in and add depth. She's available. I'm not sure she's signed for anybody yet, but I know she's left West Ham. I think she was actually probably one of West Ham's better players. So I think we could do a lot worse than Martha Thomas coming in. We're going to have some forwards leave, and so I think she's more than capable of coming in and filling the gap that's likely to be left.
Yeah, interesting. Anybody else got any names you want to throw out there?
I did make a sub list, but they're people.
Go on.
They're probably unrealistic. 1 minute.
Throw them out anyway.
Get them up. All right. So it's in my Samson notes. So all right. So I put potential signings. That Chelsea player, Wrighton, Beth Mead, Bagley, and if that City player, that centre back, can stay fit and not get injured, then Mannion. But it's all about. It's not been playing much, has she, the last couple of years? So it'd be a big risk, and especially the amount of injuries we had this season. We want people that we know we can rely on. So that would be a big risk.
You know who else we've been linked with, but I think unlikely to happen, who also happens to be a United fan. I know some of us aren't necessarily a fan of this rumour, but like I say, we could do worse than Tasha Flint.
I knew I was ready for this.
scored a lot of goals last year, has played WSL, is a United fan.
I'm a United fan. I'll play.
If she can put the ball in the net,
and we know she can. We know she can because she turned Millie inside out and scored from an angle which she had absolutely no right to score from. Was in the Golden Boot contention, and if we're going to have forwards leaving, we're going to need to bring forwards in, and it's all well and good kind of coming up with these names, Beth England and Bunny Shaw, etc., but they're not all going to start, not all going to play, and we're going to need players who are going to add depth. And I think Tash would be a great shout for that. But Emma said it looks like she's going to stay at Leicester, which I think for her is probably the best move. But no, I wouldn't be disappointed if we made that move. But I think it's just unlikely, which is why I went for Martha Thomas as an alternative option.
Gareth, do you want to touch on Kenza Daly as well? John Fry's asking about her. I'm assuming possibly as a squad player, but to be fair, I think for me, she might be better than one or two players that we currently have now, being honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she's coming in and could easily do a job. I don't think necessarily start straight away, but like I've said before, when you get players in, you don't necessarily expect them to play the role they did. I don't think if you asked us this time last year, any of us would have had Tooney playing majority of games and being one of the key players, and I don't think we'd really have had Amy T sort of making the centre back position our own and essentially getting Abby shipped out on loan. So she's available again. If she's available, then let's go for it.
Robert's upsetting the Leicester fans that have already got a flag, so we'll not even touch on that. Robert, sorry lad. Gonna wrap it there then. So thank you to the three of you for joining me. Notice how I got the number right there, Anthony. John, before we wrap
well
up,
done.
I'm gonna let you just briefly discuss Thursday and Friday shows that you are hosting, and then we'll wrap it.
Okay, so on Thursday, Natalie's back. We've got Stu Barker from Sin 71, and as things stand, he's managed to get an agent on the show. I'm not going to say the name just yet, just in case it's not being it's confirmed it with Stuart, and not confirmed it with myself. But this particular agent, I'm not going to say too much, but let's just say that there is links with Man United from pictures that we've seen quite recently, and I'll share them with you guys shortly. So he'll be a fantastic guest if we can get them on. And I don't just want to talk about transfers. I would actually like to speak to him regarding his job as an agent. How does this, what does his job actually entail as a women's football agent? So that's going to be really exciting. Never had an agent on the show before. And Friday night fan forum, 7:30 till 8:30. A few fans getting together, bringing their own topics to the table. Fully aware that it clashes with a match at some point. So I think half an hour of it might clash with a match. I'm not too sure what time it kicks off, but it'll be around about that time.
8.
Yeah, So, but we'll still carry on with that show anyway, and or just watch it back after the match has ended. So that's the ones of YouTube. You can watch it whenever you like.
Yeah, and obviously Saturday, myself and Ben are back 7:00. Obviously tonight we're 7:00 as well. We're gonna be doing 7:00 for myself and obviously mine and Ben's show until the Euros is finished, just to avoid a clash. Obviously, bearing in mind the Olympics is coming up, but we'll sort of assess that near the time. Thanks to everybody for the comments. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you on John's show Thursday. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.